Like many of you, I get video suggestions on my YouTube feed about any number of topics. And every once in a while, one really piques my interest. And of course, with the way YouTube works, once you watch one, that feeds you more. And so I've been following this trend that's been happening, and it's really starting to piss me off. We know that we've seen rampant corporate greed ever since the pandemic. And right afterwards, it was like, okay, these companies lost a bunch of money while the world was shut down and they're just trying to make it back. No, that's not what's happening. We're rapidly approaching the point where we will have zero ownership or any choice over what we can do with the things that we purchase or where we can get them serviced. It's happening in software, cars, video games, everywhere. So today I want to talk about the many ways that we're being fleeced and held for ransom. Hi and welcome. I'm here to discuss the issues that affect us in our 50s and 60s and beyond. My name is Bob, and I'm the Crusty Creator. It used to be that you could buy a car or a piece of software or a video game and use it as long as you wanted to. As long as what you purchased did the job you purchased it for, you could just keep using it. If your needs grew beyond the capabilities of that thing or that software, you'd upgrade it or you'd replace it with a newer version that then you could also continue to use indefinitely. And you had options about who could maintain it. These days, choice is being taken away from us as corporations thrust their hands deeper and deeper into our pockets, and they have no intention of willingly taking them out. The scenario that we're used to, where you could buy a product once, use it forever, and service it wherever you felt like it, has been replaced by planned obsolescence, subscription models, where you pay an annual fee for a feature or software, and restrictions on where you can get it serviced. I first saw software subscriptions on the consumer level in a popular office productivity suite that we all know, but I won't name. And later in a digital recording program that I used to use for my music until it became subscription-based. At that point, I migrated to a competitor's product because I refuse to be on the Never Never plan. A number of other creatives, photographers, videographers, visual artists, have been very upset about being more or less forced to pay a certain other software company an exorbitant amount for a packaged suite of software when they only want one part of that suite, and that part used to be available on its own and as a perpetual license. That vendor, by the way, has just settled a lawsuit because they made it too difficult for consumers to cancel the subscriptions. Manufacturers try to sell us subscriptions by saying that we will always have the latest version of the software. But here's the hook. If you don't keep paying, if you don't keep renewing, you're not simply going to be stuck with a not upgradable older version. No. That would make too much sense and might affect their quarterly earnings. No, the vendor simply turns it off and it can't be used. The true motivator for this isn't the consumer experience. It's not for software compatibility. It's for cash flow. A particular printer company did something similar with their automatic ink subscription. If you decided to cancel the subscription, the printer that you paid in full for on that plan would just stop working. Vendors can also remotely disable software on a whim if they decide to discontinue the software or if they determine that supporting it is no longer cost effective. The installed base stops working, period. End of story. Additionally, if that vendor goes out of business, or as is common in technology, it gets absorbed by another company who then subsequently abandons that particular title, you've lost your money and the software no longer works. Do you remember back in the day when your old TV would stop working as soon as the manufacturer stopped making it? Yeah, me either. The remote disabling of a title is also prevalent in the gaming industry, but with a bit of a twist. In gaming, subscription services exist, and some of them are successful. Others not so much. And in fact, one very recently basically pulled the rug out from underneath their customers. Customers paid them for subscriptions to games, but they decided to discontinue the service, and now the customers have nothing to show for it, and the vendor kept their money. Many consumers, like me, prefer to buy a standalone game for my consoles. In Canada here, it's about $75 for a regular version, $100 for the deluxe edition. Many, if not most of those games, require a full-time internet connection. This even applies to single-player games that you do not play online. That's not done for updates or license compliance. The license is usually on the game disc that you bought, or it's encoded into the download. Updates, maybe, but they could be done on demand, just like they do on our computers. Our computers don't stop working when we take them off the internet, do they? This isn't for customer satisfaction. This is for control. Game vendors have the ability to simply disable a game at any time and keep the customer's money. If it doesn't sell like they hoped, it gets disabled, even if you own the game disc. If it has technical issues they think will cost too much to fix, disabled. Consumers lose the games they bought and paid for, but the vendors keep the money. Since somewhere around 2017, car manufacturers have also been getting the subscription bug. Owners of a certain premium German brand recently found out that the manufacturer decided that the use of their heated seats should be by subscription. Now, the fee that they were asking for was nominal, but the very principle of taking the operation of hardware that the customers had already paid for and hiding that behind a paywall resulted in such a pushback that the vendor backpedaled and has abandoned subscription-based services altogether. Another manufacturer, one that makes EVs, electric vehicles, is doing the same thing with their performance levels. The motors in their performance and regular models are exactly the same, but the performance of the standard model is throttled by software. And if you want to go faster, you have to pay the vendor so that they can artificially upgrade something that the customer already owns. And while we're speaking of cars, it used to be that we could do minor maintenance in our driveway and have larger repairs done by a mechanic of our choice. Not anymore. You can't access the spark plugs, the dipstick or your oil drain plugs, and the oil filter canister will self-destruct if you use a tool other than the one that's only available at the dealer. Even the oil required for certain vehicles is proprietary, and it's only available at the dealer. At a premium, of course. Anyone with a code scanner can still plug it into a car and do basic diagnostics. But starting in around 2017 and 2018, manufacturers started requiring proprietary software to do more advanced things like flushes, resets, and recalibrations. Guess who has the only access to that software? The dealer. Documentation required to perform repairs is also behind a manufacturer paywall. Broken windshield, you can't just go to Speedy anymore because they don't have the tools required to recalibrate your collision avoidance system. 3 guesses who does. Cars that were once basic transportation have now been turned into $30,000 to $60,000 tablets on wheels that can only be serviced by the dealer for even the most basic maintenance at whatever price the dealer wants to charge. And newsflash, it's going to be much more than you used to pay at the independent garage that hired mechanics with the very same training and certifications. And let's not forget the urgent and dire required repairs your dealer will inevitably find. Manufacturers are also extending recommended maintenance intervals with the excuse of improved oil technology. But the extended intervals cause engines to wear out sooner. Even your dealer won't do a transmission flush. They're going to claim that it's lifetime fluid. What they don't tell you is what lifetime really means. Manufacturers want you buying a new vehicle every 3 to 5 years, and the dealer wants you to finance that vehicle over 7 or 8 years. And both of them are seemingly stacking the deck to force that to happen. And then there's the planned obsolescence of the parts and the myriad of control computers in new vehicles. Through part serialization and forced online registration of new parts using dealer-only software, manufacturers are actively trying to circumvent right-to-repair initiatives. They're making the repair of newer vehicles prohibitively expensive and restricting part availability so older vehicles become unrepairable. And that's in an attempt to force consumers from the service department to the showroom floor. In Europe, tons of otherwise solid vehicles are being scrapped because an authorized repair is prohibitively expensive. And they wonder why they can't move inventory. Though manufacturers might try to suppress legislation that's introduced to return choice to the consumer, like they did with the failed lawsuits in Massachusetts that aimed to suppress a voter-approved right to repair measure, there still needs to be more consumer protection put in place. Thankfully, there are more and more advocates willing to stand up and do battle with these practices. John Deere, for example, is about to settle a $100 million class action lawsuit that alleged that they purposely made it impossible for farmers and their preferred shops to diagnose and service their farm equipment as they saw fit. So let's hope the auto industry notices and starts to get the hint. They're already on thin ice and sitting on a ton of unsold inventory. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.